to give them wisdom and discernment as they make decisions that have an impact on the lives of many. Help us to come together in love and support of one another, showing kindness and compassion. May we be a source of encouragement and hope to those around us. What you bring, who you are, enriches us all. May this time together be a blessing. After worship, all are invited to coffee and conversation in the Sims room located at the back of the sanctuary. I'm pointing it out. Now let us open our hearts and mind to the spirit of worship. We continue our service with an affirmation of this year's standing committee, our governing board, and its members.
Each year, we thank the elected leaders who conclude their terms on the Standing Committee and welcome those just joining this leadership circle. The Standing Committee has the challenging task of ensuring the safety of the community, members, visitors, staff, and tenants alike, and the financial health of the Winchester Unitarian Society. In all things, our bylaws and shared values and vision are guides. As the late John Russell used to say, the Standing Committee creates the conditions for ministries to function and thrive. Early in this new year, we now take a moment to affirm our Standing Committee. Members, when I read your name, please raise your hand. Vicky Coccoluto, Clerk Liz Lintz, Co-Chair Gordy McIntosh, Claire McNeil, Fritzie Nace, Co-Chair Martin Newhouse, Stephen Perepelic, Treasurer Brad Steele, and Marcy Thompson. In absentia, we thank members at large Chuck Kuhn and Dennis Brett. Unlike last week's teacher blessing, we will not squirt you with holy water, but we will ask you to take a pledge. Do you commit to communicate openly, inclusively, and respectfully within and beyond the committee, to create an emotionally safe, welcoming, energizing space that encourages a variety of spiritual paths, to ask who is not at the table in all things, and to see and honor the inherent worth of every person, even in moments of conflict? If so, please say, we will. We will. Will the congregation please rise in body or in spirit? Do you commit to supporting our Standing Committee members with your engagement in the life of the congregation, with your respect and your trust? If so, please say, we will. We will. I now invite the congregation to remain standing as Liz and Gordy kindle the chalice flame. I will read the words, they will light it together. Like the flame of the chalice, may the flame in our hearts burn, remaining unextinguished. May it ignite our energies, our drive, our resolve to dream, to build, and to live into the world, that good which exists for now only in our imaginings. As the Standing Committee members return to their seats, let us open the gray hymnal to number 131 and join in singing Love Will Guide Us.
I invite all those who are young and young at heart to come forward for a story. And please don't worry, I just have a little cold. That's what my mask is for. Hi, everybody. Come on up, come on up. So great to see you all this morning. Welcome, welcome. And they just keep coming. Look at everybody. So, I am going to ask you a question. Who here has heard of Captain America? Everybody's heard of Captain America. How about Wonder Woman? Yes, Wonder Woman. Who's your favorite superhero? Quick, just yell it out. Wonder Woman. Green Lantern. Green Lantern. Batman. Martian Manhunter? Martian Manhunter. I don't know who that is. So when I was a kid, like you all, when someone asked me to think of a superhero, me and my siblings would all think of one certain person, Superman. Now, Superman doesn't get a lot of, publicity these days, like the Avengers do. People don't talk about Superman as much as they used to. So you might not know, but I will tell you about Superman, and Reverend Heather is going to act out a little some of this story as well. So Superman was from a different planet. And though he appeared just like a normal human, right? But he had superpowers. He walked around in a kind of disguise so that he would seem like a regular person, a newspaper reporter, which now that I think about it really isn't that normal anymore, but it used to be really normal. There used to be a lot of them. Just like Reverend Heather looks like a normal church minister with her robe and her stole. You look very normal, Reverend Heather. But when something was happening and someone needed Superman to use his superpowers, he would jump into something called a phone booth. Basically, before cell phones, there would be small rooms on the side of roads in towns and cities with a phone in them. So if you needed to call someone, you could jump into a phone booth and call them and say, "Come get me," or whatever you needed to say. They were all over the place, regardless. So they were very convenient for Superman to duck into and change out of his normal newspaper reporter clothes into his Superman clothes and cape at a moment's notice. As soon as he needed to go, he would come out of the phone booth ready to use his powers to do good and help in the world. So in some ways, our church is like Superman's phone booth, minus the phone. Although I think we have phones still in here. You think so? Yeah. We come here and we get to listen and think about what's important. We remind ourselves, do you remember this part, that we are Unitarian, Universalists, a church with open minds, helping hands, and loving hearts. Does everybody remember that from last year? And we're all superheroes in that way. We all use our superpowers, our helping hands, our loving hearts, and our open minds, just like Reverend Heather. Rev Hev, what's under that minister's robe? Dun-ta-da! Super Unitarian! Super UU, woo! So, Reverend Heather and I want to ask you, what if Superman didn't have to change in a phone booth? What if he could use his powers all the time, whenever he needed and whenever he wanted to? What if, even though coming to church gives us strength and helps us remind us of our superpowers as you use, what if we promise today and every day, not just on Sunday, to use our UU superpowers out in the world where they're most needed? What if we combine our superpowers with other superheroes out in the world, like the NAACP that fights racism, and Gardens for Good that plants vegetables for people who need food, and other faith groups, and we all work together, Avenger style, to make the world a kinder, fairer place? I wonder what if. So, you know, an actor named Christopher Reeve played the part of Superman in a movie when I was young. He was also a UU. And he said, "I believe we're all one family and need each other in times of grief and gladness. And I believe in the power of human ingenuity," that means creativity, "and people of goodwill to make a difference in the world. This is my credo, what I believe. As a Unitarian Universalist, it's what Superman and I have in common. And it's what we all have in common with each other, too. We all have open minds, helping hands, and loving hearts. Let's bring them out into the world and work together." Now I invite the adults to sing the children and teachers to religious education. The words, I think, are on the screen. I hope they're on the screen. All right, thank you.
We're now entering the centering time in our service, beginning with a poem, Pray for Peace by Ellen Bass. After the poem, you are invited to come forward and light a candle at the candle table, signifying a joy, sorrow, or concern you hold within. At that time, if you would like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand. After we kindle the light, we will be together in a time of shared silence, out of which we will sing hymn number 123 in the gray hymnal, Spirit of Life. Let us begin with Pray for Peace.
Pray to whomever you kneel down to. Jesus nailed to his wooden or marble or plastic cross, his suffering face bent to kiss you. Buddha still under the bo tree in scorching heat. Adonai, Allah, raise your arms to Mary, that she may lay her palm on our brows. To Shekinah, queen of heaven and earth, to Inanna in her stripped descent. Hawk or wolf or the great whale, record keeper of time before, time now, time ahead, pray. Bow down to terriers and shepherds and Siamese cats, fields of artichokes and elegant strawberries. Pray to the bus driver who takes you to work. Pray on the bus. Pray for everyone riding that bus and for everyone riding buses all over the world. If you haven't been on a bus in a long time, climb the few steps, drop some silver, and pray. Waiting in line for the movies, for the ATM, for your latte and croissant, offer your plea. Make your eating and drinking a supplication. Make your slicing of carrots a holy act. Each translucent layer of the onion a deeper prayer. Make the brushing of your hair a prayer, every strand its own voice singing in the choir on your head. As you wash your face, the water slipping through your fingers, a prayer. Water, softest thing on earth, gentleness that wears away rock. Making love, of course, is already a prayer. Skin and open mouths, worshiping that skin, the fragile case we are poured into, each caress, a season of peace. If you are hungry, pray. If you are tired, pray to Gandhi and Dorothy Day, Shakespeare, Sappho, Sojourner Truth. Pray to the angels and the ghost of your grandfather. If you are riding on a bicycle or skateboard, in a wheelchair, each revolution of the wheels a prayer, That the earth revolves, we will do less harm, less harm, less harm. And as you work typing with a new manicure, a tiny palm tree painted on one pearlescent nail, or delivering soda, or drawing good blood into rubber-capped vials, writing on a blackboard with yellow chalk, twirling pizzas, pray for peace. With each breath in, take in the faith of those who have believed when belief seemed foolish, who persevered. With each breath out, cherish. Pull weeds for peace, turn over in your sleep for peace. Feed the birds for peace, each tiny seed that spills onto the earth, another second of peace. Wash your dishes, call your mother, drink wine. Shovel leaves or snow or trash from your sidewalk, make a path. Fold a photo of a dead child around your Visa card. Gnaw your crust of prayer, scoop your prayer water from the gutter, mumble your prayer through the streets. Let us now kindle the light.
We are very excited to welcome Kayleen Smith as our new soprano section leader and soloist. As you're about to hear, Kayleen brings her beautiful, clear voice to our congregation and choir. With our welcome of Kayleen, we also acknowledge the departure of Cheryl Medeiros Nancaro, who served our congregation in this capacity for 34 years. Look for ways to celebrate Cheryl's gifts in the week's highlights. The purpose of church is to encourage all who gather here to grow more generous in spirit and action. The offering is symbolic as well as practical. Through our annual pledges, we build our budget and fund our yearly programs and ministries of worship and religious education, pay our staff and professional religious leaders, and finance the comfort and beauty of our building. But we pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression of thanks for the blessings of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at this most cherished hour of our week. This morning, we share the plate with the Anna La Violette SNAP Matching Fund. Anna's fund was created in the memory of Anna La Violette. She was a strong believer in the market's mission of providing fresh food, healthy fresh food to all families. Through Anna's fund, the Winchester's Farmers Market doubles SNAP benefits up to $15 per customer's card per market day. If local food security is important to you, consider volunteering next Saturday in our Love in Action event, installing a garden to grow produce for Gardens for Good. Like the Winchester's Farmers Market, Gardens for Good provides fresh vegetables to local food pantries. We need 12 volunteers to install the garden, and we currently have 5. We meet, or at least the meeting is going to happen at 10 a.m. at a local home in Winchester. Children are welcome. Please contact Reverend Heather if you can participate. Here are the different ways you can donate. Those in the sanctuary may give cash, checks, or donate electronically. Text to the number in your order of service or visit our website under the giving page. If you are visiting for the first time, either in person or online, you are our guest. In-person attendees can find a physical visitor card in the pew racks in front of you. Please complete it and put it in the collection plate. Information about how to give online and how to complete the virtual visitor card will soon be shared with live stream attendees through text on your screen. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received. Jill Nowensky and the Reverend Peggy Clark are respectively the Director of Religious Education and Senior Minister of Community Church in New York City, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. They recently led a popular workshop at the General Assembly called Disrupt Church, illustrating how their faith community is responding to the changing times we are living through. Here is an abridged conversation with Jill and Reverend Peggy, where they describe what they mean by disrupting church.
Disrupting church, in my view, has a lot to do with thinking outside of the church walls.
Yeah.
Thinking about church beyond Sundays. Thinking about church 6 ways from Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about traditional church, it feels like it's, an hour or 2 hours on a Sunday morning and that's church. And I like to think about being church, like me, my body, my life. I am church in the world. How do we do church? How do we live church? Right outside of the structure, outside of that 1 hour. Because really, what does an hour really even mean?
Is it about who you are and the community you choose and the values you hold and share? That looks like the rituals and traditions that happen on a Sunday. Also looks like workshops on a Tuesday, right? Conversations on a Monday, classes on a Thursday.
When I think about living church, I think about like showing up at a Board of Education meeting, right? Or I think about just like, who am I in the world? And how do people know that I am Unitarian Universalist, right? We put love at the center. What does it look like in the world? How do people know I know who they are, right? They're living in a whole different way. And then how do we create communities that are living very differently from the way, say, traditional churches have functioned? That they're not only hierarchical, but they're so structured, right? What does it look like when we start thinking about, networks and collaboration? Right? We stop thinking about this sort of consumer model of I go to church and I get something, and more about like, I'm here with my people and we are creating a whole new world together, and we're doing it all the time.
Yeah, it's building outside of the building.
Well, on Sunday, like if you're gonna show up on a Sunday, then I think what you should get is such a wild sense of welcome and joy and being seen and being heard that when you move out into the world, you're carrying it with you.
Yeah.
Right, and you're carrying all your people with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, choir. That was a tremendous gift. Like many stories, this one begins with once upon a time. A young woman moved away from home for college in another state. In her new town, she started attending worship at the Unitarian Universalist congregation. She had not attended church very often as a child, but she was drawn to the inclusive messages of the community and what the minister talked about on Sunday morning. It felt like this was her spiritual home. Only, if she were fully honest, she didn't entirely feel like she fit in. She had to take 2 buses to get to the church, located on the outskirts of town, tucked away in some woods. Whenever she entered the building, her presence brought the average age down significantly. And despite affirmations of inclusion, there was this sense that the congregation was more of an intellectual social club. The newcomer's intuition was confirmed when an older, longtime member once said to her, "If you're smart enough to find us, you're smart enough to stay." This story is not my story. It's an account I heard from a young adult Unitarian Universalist many years ago. But this story is emblematic of one of the worst stereotypes of Unitarian Universalist congregations: communities of elitist intellectuals more interested in each other's company than the world beyond its walls. Faith communities in general often struggle with unbalanced demographics. The Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. famously observed that 11 o'clock in Sunday morning is one of the most segregated hours in America. Few congregations reflect the full range of ages and walks of life we are blessed to enjoy in our nation. This month is centered on the theme of welcome. We began by welcoming each other back after the summer season with water communion. Last week, we explored welcoming the practices of repentance and repair into our relationships as part of the Jewish High Holy Days. And today, we explore what it could mean for a congregation to fully welcome the world outside its doors. Only we won't deeply consider familiar questions of welcome. How do we bring more people to us? But instead, how a congregation can function differently to better connect with the spiritually hungry people all around us who are not here. As the choir beautifully sang, the question is how to draw the circle wide, to expand our welcome, and to expand the circle of who and what we have traditionally been. This reconfiguring of our circumference might require some disruption. We are having this conversation this morning, and many have been having this conversation over the past few years because the overall direction of mainline Protestant congregations. Unitarian Universalism is not a mainline Christian faith, but it is mainline adjacent. In brief, congregations are shrinking. The influences are many, but the assumption that someone raised in a tradition will raise their children in that tradition is no longer true. Some longtime attendees of congregations have wavered in their commitment or left altogether, and young adults are much less religious than older generations. The Winchester Unitarian Society is at least 25% smaller than it was when I arrived in 2015. These trends have long roots, but the pandemic accelerated the rate of institutional change. For many of us whose lives have been deeply enriched by congregational life and the values and practices of Unitarian Universalism, it is a confusing and worrisome time. I chose this service to commission our standing committee members, as it's always good to celebrate our congregational leaders. But to be a congregational leader in this time is particularly challenging. To paraphrase church consultant Susan Beaumont, how do you lead when we don't know where we're going? The good news is that we as a congregation are not alone in trying to figure out next steps. This past June, as named, many UU leaders attended a program led by Jill Novensky and the Reverend Peggy Clark, sharing their insights about what it means to disrupt church. Their presentation is at the heart of my reflection this morning. The phrase disrupt church seems strange coming from religious leaders. Shouldn't we be uplifting church, strengthening church? To clarify, at the center of their message is the question, how do we disrupt how we've always done church in ways that connect with people outside our congregation? How do we minister to and with those who are not within our walls? Speaking of walls, part of Community Church's story is letting go of their building in service to their mission. They owned a number of properties that a shrinking congregation had trouble maintaining. Now they rent space from another church for their Sunday afternoon worship service and retain one building for office space. This frees them to fully focus on their mission. As Reverend Peggy Clark names, clarity of mission is critical. A story from the corporate world offers an illustration. A drill company became successful in selling their brand of drill bits, but other companies formed and created competition, so over time they sold fewer drill bits. Profits and market share shrank. Leaders in the company spent a lot of effort trying to make a better drill bit to entice buyers to choose their product. However, one leader in the company made an observation. We don't make drill bits, we make holes. The shift from making a better drill bit to more effectively creating holes was the move to a more focused mission. In a mission-centered congregation, there is a strong emphasis on providing skill building for young people to apply in their everyday lives, not just in service to the congregation. Young people are also trained to assume leadership roles, and there's an emphasis on establishing and nurturing partnership with other communities, secular and religious. Clark argues that part of the cultural shift we are experiencing is part of a transition in how individuals see themselves in relationship to power. At one point, we were dependent subjects, relying on one ruler to offer protection and care. This was the time when kings and queens had consequential impacts on the lives of the people they governed. Then we became independent consumers with much emphasis on personal agency and choice. Reverend Clark affirms many congregations are organized on a consumer model with members giving money with agendas attached and the institution defined by members and pledge units. Clark advocates for a different measure of health, become a hive where people move in and out. The reorientation that Clark seeks is towards recognizing ourselves as citizens, people who are not dependent or independent, but in the language of the seventh principle of Unitarian Universalism, part of the interdependent web of life. In a citizen hive, each person is invited to contribute. All are responsible for the health of the community, not just those paid to fill staff roles and elected into positions. Resources are also communal. Reverend Clark shares a story from Community Church's history. In the days of apartheid in South Africa, a human rights organization asked the church for office space. As their mission was in harmony with the church's values, they gave them the space at no cost. This organization became the center of anti-apartheid activism in the United States. Later, when Nelson Mandela came to visit, he made a point of coming to Community Church, as the US movement to fight apartheid would not have existed without the organization's activism, and they could not do their work without office space. As I understand it, to disrupt church is to move Sunday worship from the center of community life. Worship is a time to create joy and share welcome, but the next part of the service is to take that welcome and joy out into the world. And worship may or may not be in a sanctuary, and it may or may not include the same people. The boundaries of time and place are stretched, so as Reverend Clark says in the visual meditation, we are empowered to be church in the world all week long. The circle of living Unitarian Universalist values is drawn wide. Of course, I wonder what this could mean for the Winchester Unitarian Society. In some ways, how we function now is in the spirit of disrupting church. I think of our covenant groups, small groups that meet monthly for structured, personal, and spiritual reflection. They meet outside of Sunday morning and include people who are not part of the congregation. Note, if you are not in a covenant group now and would like to join one, information about our groups will be shared soon. Our youth groups have always included young people from outside the congregation, including the Our Whole Lives course, values-based sexuality classes. Such important learning as young people enter puberty. Youth Sunday is one of the most popular worship services each year here. High school seniors share their experience of being part of the youth group community. I remember a past testimonial by a young man named Max, who first connected to us through the Our Whole Lives class and then joined the youth group. He was literally the captain of the football team. In his reflection, Max talked about how before taking the OWL class, he would join his peers in locker room talk, conversations that were sometimes dehumanizing to women and insensitive to queer people. But the OWL class taught him about the importance of respect, communication, and consent, inspiring him to interrupt or disrupt those conversations going forward. This, I thought, is why we teach OWL. It was not just that an outsider to the community was changed through our ministries, but how he was empowered to carry the message further to foster even more learning in the wider world. But I'm mindful of the real-world challenges of us giving space to organizations that may topple the next oppressive regime. Many of our staff and leaders are working hard to rent out our space so we can pay the staff and heat and repair the building. What if all of us functioned as staff? What if we had no building at all? It would be an easy way to lower our congregation's carbon footprint. Lest you think I'm advocating for selling our beautiful building, that is not the message. My message is more that we need to try new things, to find our own way to live into this emerging time. We need to get clear about our mission and the long-time practices and structures that interfere with serving it. My message is more that we need to take seriously Reverend Clark's words. The models of church we've been using aren't working. Churches are shrinking, people are disconnecting, our membership is aging, and there are serious questions about our relevance in the world. It's time for us to rethink how we do everything, stripping us down to our mission, to the why rather than the how. Can we rebuild our churches into vibrant, covenanted communities that can think outside our traditional boxes? Disrupting church is all about reimagining. It's about letting go of what we think we know about what a church is and breaking it open to become what it could be. It is less about going to church and more about living church, being church in the world. It's churches without borders. It's 6 ways from Sunday. It's wild, innovative church birthing, and it's what's next. This year, I plan to organize an adaptive change team, a group of people here interested in exploring what reimagining could be for us. Please join me. Once upon a time, which was only last week, our religious education coordinator, Brenna Mayer, gathered parents and children under a tree outside to share a spirit play lesson after the religious education brunch. Her lesson included a child-accessible explanation of the principles and our flaming chalice. She said, "In our Unitarian Universalist community, we make promises to each other about how we are going to treat each other so that we all get along and do what's right. We call these our principles. These are our promises to one another. We promise to respect all people. We promise to offer fair and kind treatment to all. We promise to yearn to accept and learn about ourselves, others, and the mystery. We promise to grow by exploring what is true and right in life. We promise to believe in our ideas and act on them. We promise to insist on a peaceful, fair, and free world for all. We promise to value our home, earth, and we share with all living things. There are 7 promises we make to each other to help us be a community. They remind us that we are connected to each other and to the spirit of love and mystery, which some call God. Let us enjoy the light." As she led us through the lesson, other young children walked by on the sidewalk on their way to play soccer in the field next door. I remember wishing they could have joined us and wishing that these simple messages of respect for self, others, and planet could have been shared further than our lawn. I wish I could figure out how to draw our circle wider still.
Please rise in body or in spirit to join in singing our closing hymn, number 1028, in the Teal hymnal, The Fire of Commitment.
Please remain standing and let us together offer one final blessing. Let us recite the words of our affirmation of shared ministry. Gathered not for ourselves alone, but to use our common power to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls. We create and reaffirm this covenant this day to make justice flourish, to practice compassion amidst difference, and to embody transformative love. Let's take a moment to greet those who've been on the journey with us by live stream by waving to them from our pews. And now let's turn and greet our immediate neighbor as we prepare to greet our neighbors beyond this sacred space.